ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined again by Sean Keenan.
That horrible song's been running around in Hottie's head for the last 48 hours. Thanks for nothing, Portrais.
And Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and Sean's a nice enough fella if you like guys that can't even bench press.
Oh, snap. Yeah,
Boom!
You're lucky he's by, like a far way away from you, because he's a very fit man. He's better than you and I combined, let's be frank. He's that good. But God,
my physique has been compared to that of a turtle on occasion.
There you go. I'm a little bit of a kind of a turtley kind of guy myself. I don't know where this is going. Anyways, we're reviewing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows this week. The movie that, Bruce and I actually liked more than we probably should have last year.
I loved it, the first one.
Was. Yeah.
2 years ago, yeah.
But, man, this show's gone by quick, hasn't it? Because I'm like, when's the last time? Jeez, that is like 2 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, 2014.
But, yeah, so there's the sequel to it that I don't know that a lot of people were asking for after this movie, but everybody was kind of hyped because they were like, hey, look, everybody on set really loves Ninja Turtles. This is all from a guy who grew up, digging on Ninja Turtles and everything. And did it actually happen? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Did you guys get your hopes way up like I hope you did?
I hope.
Yeah. Oh, boy, did we ever.
Oh, good.
We'll see.
Good.
We'll see. But we got to get to it. It's that's another 5-star review on iTunes, a.k.a. Humdingum. And it is entitled as follows: Fun Show by TJ Olson 88. And it reads as this: super fun show. I enjoy how they talk about the comics before going into the actual review of the movies. And that's Bruce you got to thank for that one. Being a huge superhero movie, I think there's probably a word missing here, but superhero movie fan, I would guess. There's a lot of great content here. I better get a humdinger for this. Well, TJ Olson 88, you get yourself a good old-fashioned
humdinger.
There you go. See, he's not in studio, so I can't give him a little bit of but, these things happen. But we appreciate that. We appreciate you and all the executive producers over at Patreon, patreon.com/HMP. I didn't think about this before I pulled it up, so it is not on. I don't have all the names in front of me because I'll screw it up. But anyways, they know who they are.
Come on, you'd screw it up if the names were in front of you, too.
Okay.
Yeah. Give yourself a little credit.
Okay, it's only sad because it's true. Okay, but so thank you to all those folks that have Patreoned us.
Thank you guys a lot for the Patreon, and you know what? We're going to work harder at showing our appreciation.
There we go. I got it. Thank you. Thanks. What one heck of a stretch we got there, fellas. That was top notch. So,
it's only funny when Adam's crying.
It is indeed. So we want to thank Louis Longshadow, Mike Easteb, Eric Freeman, Camille DeMockel, Gorgon Campy, I believe, Matthew Schnapp, and then, of course, executive producers Beta Fu, Holly Bo Landash. I said it right this time. Boom, good for me. And, of course, good old friend Jim Beverly. Thank you guys all for doing it. And our executive producers, we're going to give it this one to Jim Beverly. Jim Beverly, this is your show this week. You're the executive producer, sir, and we will put you down in the show notes. Go ahead and put that on your IMDb page or whatever you want to do. So we appreciate that.
Look, Ma, I'm a producer.
You walk around, put it on a business card, and just kind of just start flashing around at people and just see the kind of respect that comes your way. I mean, probably won't be much, but, whatever. You could pretend.
You don't know that. You don't know. Maybe it's like a ton of respect. I don't know. I've never tried to flash that card before.
That's true. But like, hey,
in some circles, it gets you moved to the front of the line for your dinner reservation.
Other places, it gets me put in the back of a wagon and drawn off to the crazy town. But hey, whatever works for you, whoever you decide to talk to. So let's get into it, guys. Here is the trailer for our new release review of this week. Second 2 in a row. That's very nice. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Maybe. There it is. I should turn it up.
Here we go. This is awesome. Hang on, Mikey. Is it coming in kind of fast? No sleep till. This is Leonardo. He's our fearless leader.
Let's light him up.
love like a cuddly teddy bear. If big cuddly teddy bears were incredibly violent.
That's how I roll. That's how you roll.
Donatello, he's a technical genius.
How you doing up there, Donnie?
I'm doing awesome. And I'm Michelangelo. I'm a triple threat, brains, brawn, and a dazzling personality.
Mikey.
Guys, I got a lead on what's going on.
We'll build an army. Gear up, guys.
Bringing back the Mohawk. Good for you.
Oh, y'all got jokes, huh?
Nunchucks Giganticus.
You want to go down swinging? These guys hit harder than anyone.
Those things are pretty awesome, huh?
Yeah, pretty awesome.
All right, that was a trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, our new release review.
That Beastie Boy song is not going to save you, Turtles.
Try as you might. The IMDb plot line reads as follows. As Shredder joins forces with mad scientist Baxter Stockman and Hitchman, Bebop, and Rocksteady to take over the world, the Turtles must confront an even greater nemesis, the notorious Krang. This is directed by David Green, starring Megan Fox, Will Arnett, Tyler Perry. For some reason, Laura Linney decides to show up. I don't know. I figured she would have better things to do than
Her
this.
grandkids are probably huge Turtles
You're
fans.
probably
That's all I
not.
could
You're
figure.
probably not wrong there, Stephen.
I like
Amell.
to think that her grandkids are actually turtles.
Then we're moving on to
They're
Stephen.
huge turtles, her grandkids.
Stephen Amell, Noel Fisher, Jeremy Howard, Pete Vincent, all the people, and Brian T, who we're going to talk about. Interesting, because there's some interesting news has come out. I don't know if you boys have seen it, but we're going to talk about that one. Brian T, the guy who played Shredder.
Oh, he wants to be under the water, right?
Yeah, man, a little bit of under the sea action with that guy, but we'll talk about that.
He's going to try to drown himself?
He's going to try to drown himself in Times Square, no less, in front of most people. And he really said, I want children to be around when it happens, which is the real disturbing part.
More accurately, he wants to drown himself in sequels. Lots and lots of sequels.
Drown me in this sequel goodness. Bruce, we've talked about the Turtles before on this podcast. What do you got for us this week in the old Comic Connection?
Well, Arnold Bernard Casey Jones first showed up with his characteristic black mullet and hockey mask in Raphael #1. He's a vigilante, and he was created as a parody of vigilante characters. His weapons include all kinds of sports equipment. He has baseball bats, golf clubs, cricket bats, much like Shaun of the Dead, and hockey sticks, which we get to see a lot of in this movie. And he would eventually marry April O'Neil. But when Jones was young, his father owned an auto shop, and a group of people in a gang called the Purple Dragons burned the shop down. They killed his father. They took his mother and sister hostage. Casey refused to cower to the Purple Dragons, and he stood up to their leader, resulting in Casey being beaten within an inch of his life. Well, this severe beating resulted in several mental and emotional disorders, explaining his often violent and erratic behavior. Now, initially, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird had intended for Casey to have become a vigilante simply because he watched too many bad cop shows, but instead they fell back on the cliche of a traumatic family tragedy. He started his career with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when he ran into Raphael, and he was beating up a pair of muggers. Raphael let them go, and Casey proceeded to, quote-unquote, finish them off, but he was stopped by Raphael. So you got to take a minute here and realize that initially Casey Jones was too violent for Raphael, who is the most violent of the Turtles. And the two clashed, but eventually they helped each other to take down some additional muggers that appeared in their fight. Now, in the true superhero first meeting fashion, Casey Jones and Raphael did fight several times before making peace with each other. And you should take note that Casey could hang in a fight with Raphael just fine. He's no cupcake. Now, later on, the Turtles, Splinter, and April O'Neil were attacked by a resurrected Shredder at April's home. They escape, and they're taken to a farmhouse in Northampton, Massachusetts, that once belonged to Casey Jones's grandmother. And in the comics, Casey Jones is extremely violent. That's what I'm trying to say here. Even more so than Raphael. He does mellow out a little bit with time, but at one point, Casey accidentally kills a teenager who tried to mug him. This incident sent Casey into a drunken spiral, damaged his relationship with April O'Neil, and after that, Casey decided to take a road trip from Massachusetts to California. Along the way, he met a pregnant woman named Gabrielle. He kind of fell in love with the lady, but she ended up dying during childbirth, and Casey was left to take care of her daughter, whom he named Shadow. Eventually, Casey and April get married, and they raise Shadow as their own daughter until April eventually leaves Casey and Shadow when she learns that she is not a human, but in fact, Shadow is the product of a Kirby warp pen. Please don't ask any follow-up questions to that. Now, Casey takes to the nightclubs to drown his sorrows in the old liquor, and he meets up with the Foot Clan leader, Karai, the young Asian woman that we see in this movie, but hardly seems to have anything to do. When he meets her in one of these clubs, they have a few drinks, and they wake up at Karai's house, suggesting that he bumped uglies with the Lady Shredder. Now, in the 1987 animated series, Casey Jones is a crazed vigilante with a Dirty Harry-like persona. He goes after all sorts of criminals, from robbers to litterers, and treats them all viciously. He never takes off his mask when he's on the screen, and even once he goes undercover in a business suit and, to hilarious effect, leaves the hockey mask on.
It's great.
Now, the point is, in every incarnation, Casey Jones has been a grade A, butt-kicking bad banana. He spends his time dispensing dosages of street justice to the people that need it most. If I can borrow a quote from Rowdy Roddy Piper, I'll say that Casey Jones is always out of bubblegum. He's not some whiny rookie corrections officer dreaming of getting into the police academy next year. He's like Gordie Howe crossed with the Punisher. He's not Josh Brolin's character from the Goonies mixed with Luke trying to go to Toshi Station. The point is, Stephen Amell can play a bug nuts crazy vigilante. I've seen him do it before.
Where?
Season 1 of Arrow, my man.
Okay.
So why did this movie turn Casey into a blue-eyed Boy Scout? Did you guys ever think you'd live to see the day when Vern Fenwick was edgier than Casey Jones? I mean, what's next, Hollywood? Are you going to turn Luke Cage into Carlton? Are you going to give us a Dirty Harry reboot starring Harry Potter? Are you going to have Captain America working for Hydra? I'm starting to think that maybe I shouldn't have absolute confidence in the infallibility of the Hollywood studio system. What do you guys think?
Those guys are always on point every time. I don't know what you're talking about, Bruce.
Never had a misstep ever, right?
Nope. It's all been just, gravy trains and, pizza parties.
So before we
Hollywood.
get into it, what do you guys think I thought of this movie?
I'm going to guess that you did not like this one as much as you liked the last one.
You're on point there, and a big part of it is Casey Jones, man. I love the character.
I took that from The Connection. I put that one together. I used my detective skills, and I'm like, I think we found out where it kind of rubs him the wrong way in this movie, man.
Way to go, Grissom! You nailed it.
Oh man,
I'm in for that promotion any day now.
Actor, but they did it wrong here.
Well, let's talk about what they did wrong with the first one and how I at least think there are some elements on this that they did improve on. First and foremost being, this movie does mostly revolve around the turtles. We've gotten rid of the majority humans storyline here, and it works and it doesn't, I think.
I think that, to be honest, there's like more heart in this movie, and that this movie could have been a lot better than the first one. I think the first one was a big surprise to me. I didn't expect how much fun it would be. But I think the director on this one's different from the director on the first one, right?
Correct.
And I just don't think this director can do action as well as that first guy did. And I feel terrible that I don't know the guys' names, the two directors.
Well, Dave Green is the one who did this.
This has Who? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Dave Green is the guy who did this one. He also did like Earth to Echo, and he comes from more.
This is very much in line with the action scenes in Earth to Echo, I would say. But the guy that did the first one, maybe he didn't understand the gestalt of the turtles, and he did have some miscues there. But the action scenes really pulled me in. I love the action scenes. I love some of the corny jokes that were in there. And on this one, we had the big snowbank. Going down the snowbank in the first one, which was like that big 1 hour into the movie, middle of your script action scene to get people hooked. And in this one, they sort of had that river scene that was supposed to be this movie's equivalent to the snow scene. And I'm telling you, that snow scene was so much more fun to me in the theater. I watched that first movie about 4 times in the theater. This one I've seen once, and I don't expect to go back.
Harsh words. Keenan, where are you at on this train?
I hate this movie. This is the worst movie I've seen this year.
Go
I
watch
hate
more
everything
movies.
about this movie. I hate this movie so much. Let me start with what they get right, because everything else I'm just going to wail on this movie for the next 45 minutes. So this is what they get right. The pizza's there this time. You know, they really brought the pizza this time. That's
and
one.
Kevin Eastman was the pizza guy at the beginning of the movie.
That is.
Oh, wow.
That's a great quote. That's a poster quote if I ever saw one. Even though you hate it, it's like the pizza. They got the pizza this time, or some. What was it again? So good.
Yeah,
They brought
Kevin
the
Eastman.
pizza.
They brought the pizza. That's a totally great quote.
Yeah.
Don't you dare put me on that poster, whoever is putting quotes on posters. So that's one thing they get right. The second thing they get right is that they really do tone down the killing. There's not a whole lot of killing in this movie, which is refreshing, actually.
I think it's doing it wrong, personally. I like that gritty black and white first issue of Ninja Turtles, which has no shortage of violence.
Well, me too. But, you know, Bruce, that ship has sailed so far gone that, you know, I mean, this movie was for little kids. I mean, it really was. And which is fine. Like, that's totally fine. Make your kid movie. Like, you know, not every superhero movie has to be for, you know, a 42-year-old debonair suave gentleman like myself. Like some of them can be.
I thought
Some
you were
of them can
describing
be
me.
for little kids. And you, Bruce, and you. But you know, I like that they're making this movie for kids, and we'll get into why they did that, why they even did that poorly in a minute. But so those are the two things that this movie, in my opinion, did right. Is that they brought the pizza this time. They didn't shy away from pizza. Pizza's everywhere in this movie, and
And it wasn't Pizza
And-
Hut or Domino's, or
and-
which was the first one in the first movie? I forget. It was either Pizza. I think it was Domino's. I think it was Domino's.
Yeah.
I'm eating pizza like a real New Yorker.
Right from the
They,
Domino's.
I'm eating Domino's pizza like a New Yorker. So those are the two things that they get right, and everything else is just going to be a bloodbath from me. So if you have anything nice to say, Adam, now is the time.
Well, I do have some nice comments, and I bet Adam agrees with this. What did you think about our first image of April O'Neil in the wig? A little bit of a throwback look for April O'Neil there.
Yeah, here's the biggest question that I have with her, though, right now, man. What is she doing? Who is she with? Because when we left her, she was but a reporter. And now we don't know that that's her job, but she likes going around in wigs and pulling some fast ones.
Well,
I get it.
like
That
she got the anchor position, it looks like.
it looks like she took Whoopi's job, because Whoopi is not in this movie.
Well, Whoopi was the news director, and news director.
Now it's April.
There's news director. Don't leave that chair. Let me tell you that right now.
Now, I liked her in the wig, a little bit of a throwback to like the animated series kind of look about her. And she goes and she's flirting with Medea there, Tyler Perry, Baxter Stockman. And then, you know, we have that whole little scene. She's trying to remotely download his emails or something like that. And then it gets like, as much as I liked her dressed up in the wig and a little bit of an 80s look about her, then all of a sudden she decides she has to fit in with the high school Catholic schoolgirls out in the lobby of whatever mall she's in. And, you know.
And that's when I loved it.
Oh, man, see, because Megan Fox, you know, there are people that are definitely Megan Fox people, but there's nobody that thinks she can pass for 17, right?
No,
I mean,
not
she's
at
a
all.
woman. She is not a girl.
She's of diminutive enough height and stuff that she could probably, you know, if you're doing
It just seemed like gratuitous. Okay, we're going to give people
Well,
a
yes.
little Megan Fox dressed in a plaid skirt with a bare midriff.
So, Adam, you're going to take the side that Megan Fox can pass as a high schooler.
I mean, not as well. I mean, in the quick situation that she's doing in this thing, maybe. I mean, because look, they're just trying to be. She's just trying to go all sexy pants around this other guy, so you know she can take a picture and download the the stuff from the iPad or whatever.
And it's
That is
weird though.
That is Bruce's nickname, right? Sexy Pants. That's
Sexy
what we're gonna
Pants?
start
Yeah,
Sexy
calling
that
Pants
is
Bruce?
my nickname.
Good.
That's what my grandma called me when I was a little kid.
Get
But
over
anyway,
here, Sexy Pants.
the thing
so
is,
weird,
I was
Grandma.
loving Megan. I've never been a Megan Fox fan, but I was loving her in the wig and the glasses, playing sort of the nerdette or whatever. And for the first time ever, I was thinking maybe I've been wrong all these years. And then just as quick as I was starting to enjoy her as April, they go do this quicko changeo, turn into the naughty schoolgirl thing, and all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, that's why I don't really like her, isn't it?
Bruce, does your wife know that you like blondes? Because your wife ain't blonde.
I'm talking about acting prowess.
Okay.
I'm not talking
okay,
about
fair
color of the
enough.
hair.
You seem to be up on the wig. You're just like, that wig was just perfect, and you know, it's no. Look, here's the thing. I will say this: she seemed more present in this movie than she did the last one. The last one seemed like she was just stumbling through. This at least looked like she was paying attention.
Yeah, I guess I would go with that.
I mean,
You
she
know,
wasn't
does
great, but she doesn't have a
couple
lot
of
to do.
moments
But
in
that's
this
also
movie.
good.
She does get to fight against a ninja or something at one point.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're saying that she did a good job in this movie?
I'm saying she did better than she did in the last one, which is basically look like, you know, like there's no thoughts going through her head. It looks like a couple are going through her head at this time.
If we're
Oh my God.
looking at the spectrum of Megan Fox performances alone, we're not comparing her to any other actor or
Precisely.
actress. I think she did better here than Jennifer's Body. Was she in that movie?
She was in that movie.
Yeah, I think she
Kind
did
of.
better
Jennifer's
here
Body.
than she did better here than in the Transformers, right?
I'd say it's about on par.
And then she hasn't really made any other movies, has she?
Not ones that people remember. But here's the thing. Look, I mean, she's there for the purpose that she's there. But I like how at the same time, again, we're not relying on her and the human crutches for this whole thing. The majority of this stuff does take place with the turtles and stuff, and that's
Yeah.
you know, for a Ninja Turtle movie. I mean, that's what people clearly seem to have. Well, I'd say clearly have seemed to want it, but the box office would say otherwise. But that's what people have been saying that they wanted is stuff that goes like, hey, concentrate on the turtles, or in the Transformers movies, hey, get rid of all the human stuff. We just want to see robots beating the crap out of each other.
But I think that $35 million is on par with what the last Turtles movie did. That's what they built their sequel on as well. We weren't expecting a $35 million box office.
I don't think so. I think they were looking 35 in a hot summer month. Nah, that's
And it might have been a different time of year when the 2014 movie came out, but I think it was like 42 at the most. But
well, I mean that I think for the time of year and stuff it was. I think that's better. But this is dead heat summer, man. This was supposed to make like 50, 60. But no.
well,
I could not be proud of our country right now. Yeah, Trump's probably going to be president. You know, no one has a job anymore. But at least the Turtles movie did not crack $50 million in its opening weekend.
now
hope for us
Tyler
all.
Perry's Baxter Stockman isn't the only new character we're getting introduced here, because after the whole schoolgirl thing, we get to see some prisoners, one of whom is Shredder. The other two are human versions of Bebop and Rocksteady being transported by a corrections officer named Casey Jones. And that's where we get to see the person I was most excited about for this movie, one Oliver Queen playing Casey Jones. Mm-hmm. Did you guys have any first impressions?
This guy is,
You know, he's a very handsome gentleman, but you know, do we know if he can act? Can he actually act?
I think so, man. He can do action. I mean, if they had Casey do some action, he could do that.
And you
I don't
can't
know that
spell
he's
action
going to be
without
doing
act.
Hamlet at the Globe Theater or anything.
At no point did I believe that he was actually just going to go absolutely berserker and kill everybody in the room. And that's the point of that character, correct?
Exactly. And they've totally changed this character so much. And, you know, Stephen Amell is Canadian. You know, he's from the Toronto area.
oh,
so
he's too nice.
they-
That's his problem. He can't get that anger.
He is the nicest guy in Hollywood, by the way. You know, the behind-the-scenes stories from people who have met him, he is a little too nice. That's maybe why his star will never be as big as it could be. But they stress the hockey. You know, they make him a hockey player. They take away the idea that Casey Jones is so bug nuts crazy that he uses all of this sports equipment. And they've just narrowed it down to the hockey stick. And at one point, he makes his rollerblades out of an office chair or something. But they've totally taken the fun out of he's like the Bo Jackson of vigilantes. You know, he's a multi-sport assassin.
I'll let you
He's not awesome like Bo Jackson. What are you talking about? This character,
Oh, man,
the character from this movie. No kid walked out of this movie going, "Man, Casey Jones is awesome." There's not a single kid who did that.
And they should have, because they just made him a hockey player rather than this vigilante whose shtick is sports equipment. You know,
who wears
they made him
a mask.
one sport athlete.
He wears his mask probably a total of 3 minutes in the movie.
And the mask works best when he has like a golf club that he's hitting you with. You know, you got to blend the genres. The mask and the hockey stick don't go together nearly as well as the mask and the aluminum softball bat.
I did enjoy how they were just like, we can't hear what you're saying. I
also would have loved it if they had like a scene where he's got, Casey Jones carries like a quiver on his back with all of his sports equipment.
Uh-huh.
And I would have loved him pulling out the quiver. You know, that would have been a little arrow-esque. But
that's a missed opportunity right there, man.
Yeah. But he could pull out the hockey stick and break it, pull out the cricket bat, and somebody knocks it out of his hand. Then he reaches in. All he's got left is like a badminton racket. That would have been kind of fun, do something like that.
Yeah. And actually even more Green Arrow than they do.
Yeah. Pull out the old boxing glove arrow and hit somebody with it.
It's all this other kind of like sports equipment tucked to the end of an arrow.
The ninjas attack that paddy wagon, I guess, as Casey Jones is taking Shredder and the two, what you assume are thugs, Bebop and Rocksteady, right?
Yeah. And I like this scene. I mean, I think of all the action scenes, this one's probably directed a little bit better than the other ones. But I like the absurdity to it. I mean, I like how, yes, does it make any sense that their, van has, nunchuck arms coming out of it? No, but is it fun? Yeah.
And we get the turtle truck, man. That turtle van was such a mainstay of toys in the 80s. I'm glad, even if it was a garbage truck instead of a van, I'm glad we got the turtle van. And instead of pizzas, it shot out manhole covers, but the visual was close enough to give me a kick. Yeah. I'm enjoying it when they're in that van. Yeah. And Raphael's angry because he wants to get out there and bash heads in person instead of mechanically.
I mean, I thought they were a little, and then when he does go out and just, jumping on the motorcycle and stuff and smash people's heads in, I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, like I said, I think of all the action scenes, this was their kind of their marquee. I mean, obviously the one later with the tank and everything they thought was going to be their big one, but I think this one's pulled off the best.
And did you notice a change in the voice cast here as we get to hear the Turtles talking? I think I noticed it first when they were at the basketball game, but we don't have any Johnny Knoxville this time around.
Couldn't fit it into a schedule.
They couldn't afford Johnny Knoxville for the sequel. His demands were too high.
I mean,
why didn't they get Corey Feldman?
Oh, I would have loved that. And in a weird way, I think Johnny Knoxville could have played a good Casey Jones. Like, forget the turtle part.
He probably could have, and you could probably. I kind of like that casting because, man, he could have like that crazy, just bug-eyed kind of like psychopath kind of. No,
I mean, if you could go with a 50-year-old Casey Jones, he definitely could pull off the reckless abandon.
That would be super creepy. Him just kind of hitting up on Megan Fox's stuff, just like, get out of here, Grandpa. But no, I mean,
not as creepy as when Michael Bay did it, but that's another story.
But no, I mean, like, look, that scene was cool, and then we kind of get the whole Shredder getting.
They introduced Krang. I mean, that scene, they're trying to stop Shredder from escaping. Bebop and Rocksteady escape, and they don't mean anything at this point. They're just human street-level criminals. They're not anything special. But the important thing is Krang gets teleported out, and Shredder gets teleported out, and he briefly meets the older brother from Everybody Loves Raymond as Krang.
But I mean, I just don't. I still don't understand how they just kind of like got swooped up by the wormhole or whatever it was. I still don't even really understand how that happened.
Because Krang can just do it's a cartoon, man. That's what Krang can do.
Well, I mean,
what did you guys think of Krang?
I thought it was a good mix of kind of like sort of keeping with his style of speech patterns and everything, but still not being, super cartoony. So I felt it kind of gave that. I was a little bit weirded out, but kind of got used to him being kind of outside of the Mandroid a little bit. I was like, at first I was like, I don't like that, but then I did, but it grew on me. Him kind of coming out to that's how he makes his speeches and stuff, and then gets sucked back in when he's done.
I felt like it took good inspiration from the cartoon, but it still made it its own for the movie. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, Sean said this is a movie for kids. I think my kids really like Krang.
Yeah, and he seemed like a scary character. He's always wet and dripping with crap and stuff, and he just seemed super crazy. So He's
Well,
far more crazy than Casey Jones.
you've just dovetailed into my first point for this movie,
All right,
Bruce. So, Bruce, what did your kids think of this movie? Did they like it?
I think they liked it okay. I don't think they liked it as good as the first one.
Yeah. Because here, it seemed like the first movie they split it down the middle where they kind of made it for kids, but they also made it, a little dark. Whereas this one is completely supposed to be for kids. Yet, with that being said, there's still cursing.
That got me a little bit. I was just like, whoa, this seems very out of place.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting to me, too. I didn't realize it at the time. And everything you're saying, Sean, starting to make a little more sense because today my sons wanted to watch The Secret of the Ooze, part 2 from the old Turtles trilogy. Mm-hmm. And we did watch it. And, that was the one that was made more for kids. And they really kiddified it a lot compared to the first one.
Big time.
And then I started seeing lots of parallels between Secret of the Ooze and Out of the Shadows. Krang, of course, isn't in Secret of the Ooze, but I just started seeing some parallels. So I'll bring those up as we go along here. But it's interesting. I could see that it's like the part 2 movement in both the original trilogy and this one seems to be to capitalize on the kids that you brought in with the first one, maybe unexpectedly.
Yeah, and so the next huge problem with this movie is that if you're making a movie for children, why is there so much objectification of women in this movie? Like almost every single female character in this movie is a Victoria's Secret model. They're wearing almost no clothes. The only people in this movie who are like normal looking women are Laura Linney and one of the cops. And that's about it. Everybody else is like gorgeous.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but I feel like the director took a look at Laura Linney on some of her screen tests and said she's really a good actress, but we need to make sure we put this really cute Asian lady right next to her that never says a word so that anytime Laura Linney's on the screen, you can also look at that Asian lady. Didn't it kind of feel like she was just there in case you wanted to look at a younger person while Laura Linney was doing her thing?
I didn't know.
Yes, of course. And that's one of the problems with this movie, man.
I mean, that character, I don't even know if that character has a name, much less any lines, but she's in every stinking scene right next to Laura Linney.
Yeah, because Laura Linney's getting older. And it was so maddening as I was watching it because I figured out pretty early on, they're making this movie for small children, and that's fine, That means plot goes out the window, character development goes out the window. That's fine. I don't care about that. But when you're breaking your own crap, when you're not keeping within the boundaries of your own stupid movie, then you have failed on every single level as a movie. You guys already know I can't stand the redesign of the Turtles. I think they look ridiculous and stupid.
They look better this time than they did last time.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Adam. If you notice some differences between how they look here in the first one.
They're much brighter. The green pops a lot more. The colors themselves pop a lot more. They're not wearing as much crap on them as they were previously. They're still wearing a lot of crap on them, but it's not as much crap.
But they don't seem to have like the bamboo constructed samurai armor and stuff. They had some weird accoutrement in that first one that's gone here.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. That was overkill. It was just like already you've got these things that are the size of VW bugs walking around and talking, and yet you put even more crap on them. I didn't understand that, but.
And we didn't really have any of the like simple, quiet moments like the elevator scene from the first one. Like we didn't have anything to remind us that these four guys are kids and they are friends. That was just kind of one of the sort of breakout fun scenes in the first one was that elevator scene where they start doing all the percussion and everything. We didn't have any kind of cool little just the guys being guys moments in this one.
You guys remember, I mean, that was the only scene in the first movie that I was like, you know what, I've got to give it up for that scene. That scene was really fun. There isn't a single thing like that in this movie.
I think there is. I think there's one little thing that I thoroughly enjoyed. It was the whole, and you hear it a bit in the trailer there, of him introducing everybody else, and the dating game theme comes up. And he's going through, listing off about all the things. I thought that was a lot of fun.
And this one really played up the schism between the Turtles a little bit more than the first one did, because that's what you kind of have to do in part two of any superhero movie is either the hero loses his power or the team breaks up, And they did play up that schism, and they had kind of that great scene where I think it was Leonardo that was saying things like Michelangelo's all heart and no brains, Raphael's all instinct and no strategy. You know, he was just kind of pointing out the shortcomings of every turtle, and then of course Splinter and the turtles themselves at the end realized that it's not the shortcomings, it's he's also pointing out the strong points of each of them, and that's why they work as a team. So they play that schism angle, which, you know, like I said, it's not the story that let me down as much as the execution, and the action scenes just didn't sell me because, come on, when I'm going to see a Turtles movie, I should be able to like watch it in a foreign language and still enjoy it. Like the things they say shouldn't mean that much.
Yeah, I think that is one of the bigger problems, is that a lot of the, I don't know, it just, I see where they were going with the story and everything, but it is a lot of they are just kind of CGI characters in this real world thing. And had it been animation, I think you would have probably, you know, paid attention and or cared more when they were talking about whatever they're talking about, as opposed to this one, you're just like, well, where's the next flashy bit coming from? Because the story itself was not overly compelling.
Now, you know, you mentioned CGI characters. This is probably when we need to mention Bebop and Rocksteady. They were featured heavily in the trailers. They were a big selling point of this movie. You know, for me, it was Casey Jones that I got excited about. But Casey Jones has been in movies before. This is the first time that the cartoon characters, Bebop and Rocksteady, they were not introduced in the comic books.
I'm more of a Toka and Razor guy myself.
Oh, boy. Let's talk Toka and Razor. But anyway, what did you guys think about Bebop and Rocksteady?
I liked him well enough. I mean,
and I know the Sheamus guy is sort of a celebrity. He's like a wrestling guy, right? He's got fans out there.
People seem to like him. I don't know nothing from nothing. I mean, outside of The Rock, I don't know much about the wrestling.
And I thought they were really well done. I liked the CGI. I liked the way they looked. I liked the voices. I liked the performance. Whoever did the mocap. I don't know if the actual actors did the mocap or somebody else did, but I liked that. I felt like they didn't have the amount of jokes that I expected them to have. It was one of those scenarios where the trailers pretty much had all the Bebop and Rocksteady that the movie had. I really wanted a little more fun with those characters. I wanted better battles with them getting beat down and everything. Didn't need to see them riding choppers. And I don't know if maybe it was a budget issue, but I was a little disappointed in the Bebop and Rocksteady too.
Yeah, I felt like, I mean, overall, and this is also, I guess, a kind of a critique for the whole movie, I think it could have gone more batty insane. And like really just go all out, man. Just make it just insane. But it's like they didn't quite, hit that level by any means. So I'm like, eh.
You have any Bebop and Rocksteady thoughts, Sean?
I hate them. I hated the characters from the beginning. You know, they're setting up these two guys to be it feels like what they were thinking about was, you know what, if this movie gets big enough, we can have a spin-off with Bebop and Rocksteady. But here's the problem.
Carl, you're fired.
Here's the problem is that they are one note. That, and that note ain't that good a note. I get what they were going for, that, these guys have a criminal past, that they were, they're dumb schlubs. Like, that's fine. That's all fine. But they really, I mean, the way they look with their mutation, they really could have made them into pretty intimidating butt kickers. They could have made them imposing, and they didn't. Well, they didn't. That's not the way this movie was going to fall in the first place, though. I mean, even the transformation of them from humans to the warthog and the rhino, like they kind of enjoyed the transformation. Like there was no werewolf moment of like, oh my God, the change is happening.
It wasn't a David Cronenberg movie.
Oh, I'm a little piggy.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I did like that. I'm a little piggy, and he's just stupid enough not to know what he actually is. That's fun.
There's no. I mean, these characters are so stupid. They're so stupid.
Do you guys feel?
No, go ahead.
Do you guys feel like we got robbed, though? Because I thought, they set it up with Bebop and Rocksteady. I thought at the end of the movie, maybe even like a mid-credits kind of thing, I was fully expecting to get the Baxter Stockman transformation.
Dude,
and they totally gypped us out of that.
I totally waited till after those credits. I'm like, we're going to get a Baxter Stockman button that's just going to rock our socks off. Nope, nothing.
Are you familiar with Baxter Stockman from the comics or the cartoon, Sean?
Yeah, I know he turns into a fly.
Yeah, and I was they really teased that transformation, and I felt like we got denied.
You know, I don't feel like I was robbed of anything of this movie, except that it's 2 hours long. Why did you have to make this movie 2 hours? No kid can sit through a 2 hour long movie.
Star Wars.
Oh, man. Now, they go to Brazil, you know, for reasons. We'll just say MacGuffin, Brazil. So they go to Brazil and have the big river scene. And I've already said that I was disappointed in this river scene. This was supposed to be the snow scene from the first movie, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I felt like it fell flat. Did you guys enjoy the snow scene? Did you guys enjoy the river scene? Did I miss something there?
No, I mean, it wasn't super exciting, but like it should have been. And like the whole time I'm like, I feel like I should be enjoying this more than I am.
And, you know, I felt that way in a lot of river scenes. Like in The Hobbit, they had the in the barrels going down the river. I felt like I didn't enjoy that one much. I didn't enjoy this one. I feel like it's one of those action set pieces that are recurring, you know, and I've never really enjoyed the river scenes. And this one was no exception. There was a little bit of fun when that tank popped up, but then it just they didn't seem to do anything with it. Once again, I think this director is a fan of the cartoons. He's a fan of the Turtles, but he doesn't really have a lot of action direction experience.
You know, I wanted to see sort of an homage to Apocalypse Now, where they're going down the river. maybe one of the turtles like has a line from the movie, something like that. None of that. None at all.
That would have been amazing.
Michael Bay. It really feels like Michael Bay's hand is all over this movie. It really does.
Rocksteady don't surf.
Well, I will say this. From what tiny bit I did hear about Michael Bay's involvement with this, was that like he was one pushing for like a more cartoon-esque Krang and everything. Somebody was in his office and like they showed him some stuff and they were like, no, he was like, he had notes on the tentacles and stuff. He's just like, I want it to look like this. So, I mean, the guys, at least from what tiny little bit I've heard from that story, seemed like he was interested in the movie enough to try to help make it good. But I mean,
and despite all the outrageous and ridiculous elements, this movie felt kind of subdued for a Platinum Dunes production. It felt subdued compared to the last movie. I guess that's the main word I would use, is everything feels a little subdued, a little dialed back.
Yeah.
Some half measures there. While they're, I guess, after they get back from Brazil, why they're in Brazil, maybe it's the reason they go to Brazil, but Casey Jones and April O'Neil end up in jail, and I guess we're supposed to feel some romantic tension or heat or something. I mean, I know from the comics that these two end up married, but I'm not feeling anything from Megan Fox and Stephen Amell. I guess he's just not Brian Austin Green enough for her.
No one's Brian Austin Green enough for anyone, including Brian Austin Green. Yeah, no, you're not wrong there, though. I mean, it's pretty. You know,
I don't know if they were trying to make it more like a comedic love triangle with Vern and Casey and April there, but there's no way there's a love triangle there, because the only love geometry when Stephen Amell is involved is always a straight line right towards the middle of his body. So there's no way there could be a triangle.
It's Bruce Leslie at HeroMoviePodcast.com.
Come on, he's got those blue eyes, man. You can't beat him.
No, apparently we can't.
But I didn't feel any chemistry between those two, which is not a good thing for those two.
Well, here's the thing: you get beautiful people on screen a lot of times. You know, they can't act that well, and they're just like, well, we know why we hired you.
Oh man,
no one wants to say it, but it's true.
Are we going to talk about the Falcon at all? Because I'm a big fan of that actor, and we've got the Falcon like blowing his breath into sandwich bags to sell on the internet and stuff.
I do have to say that he did bring some life to this movie. The only time I ever laughed watching this movie was when Will Arnett was on screen. I really like the bit where he's got to find the camera. And he's got to find the tape for the camera, and he pulls that wire out from all over the room. The
most circuitous possible route to get to that box. It's like 2 inches below the clock.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty funny. Yeah. That's a pretty good moment. And there's something about Will Arnett where you're just like, yep, that guy gets it. He's one of the only moments in this movie where you're like, oh, this dude behaves like he's been in a movie before. You know what I mean? like everything else feels like a mess and hot garbage and everything's on fire and there's snakes everywhere and it's just the worst movie you've ever seen. And then Will Arnett shows up and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Will Arnett's in this movie. I totally forgot about that. And it's good for like the 5 minutes he's on screen for.
And, you know, the movie kind of comes to its climax when Baxter Stockman gets all the transdimensional devices that he needs to open up the portal to bring Krang and his technodrome to Earth. And we get this sort of chain reaction of Shredder sort of using Baxter Stockman to help him in his plan and then discarding him, saying, you'll never be anything more than a footnote. Then as soon as Krang makes it to Earth, Shredder goes to greet him, and then he turns Shredder into a statue, doing kind of the exact same thing to Shredder. He's like, great. Come on, man. This is what you would have done in my position. How could you not see this coming? I kind of like that, and I like it, too, because it sort of ties into cartoon canon. At one point, Krang does take Shredder sort of into a stasis chamber, into another dimension, and Karai's goal is to bring Shredder back. So it puts Krang and the Foot Clan at odds with each other for a while.
I hear that's when they were shooting Fresh Prince of Bel-Air season. So they were just like, hey, we gotta put him in some sort of...
Uncle Phil couldn't do the voice.
He couldn't do the voice then. So you're just like, well, put him in the chamber.
Do you guys find it weird at all that everyone in New York knows who Shredder is, but no one knows who the Turtles are?
That's because they know about the Falcon.
Yeah, because the Falcon took all the credit somehow, magically.
I do love that they call him the Falcon.
And I still love the Falcon breath. That scene of him sitting there in his apartment blowing into the Ziploc bags.
I'm just like, who are these people that are paying $200 a pop for your breath in a Ziploc bag with like even like the crummiest looking sticker on it?
That to me, that feels like one of those moments where somebody told him that somebody might buy it for $200, but no one ever bought it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Adam, it's kind of like that one guy that we know from stand-up comedy who said that he had 10,000 Twitter followers and actually he just bought them all.
Of course, these things happen all the time. So no, it's
man. Wrong. But you know, the Technodrome gets brought in like one piece at a time, and it looks like a game of Tetris as it's being put together. And then I had this realization that I read that a Chinese studio is making a $80 million Tetris trilogy, and I bet it's going to be a lot like this.
Oh, sweet mercy. No one wants. I mean, a Tetris movie. I did think of like a cool, like somebody said something that was a cool idea about how it would like be like, because you know it came from Russia, the game.
Yeah,
and how like, you know, like it could be like the Last Starfighter, where if like you're like really good at Tetris, then they bring you up to some galactic empire or something. You know, so
I like that.
That's kind of cool. I like that idea.
It couldn't possibly be worse than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
or
2.
the Last Starfighter, because that movie sucks. Sorry, people.
Yeah,
it's true.
It does.
and you know they have this big battle. The Turtles are kind of taking on Krang and his Mandroid. Meanwhile, we've got Casey trying to take out Bebop and Rocksteady, while the Falcon and April are trying to take out Karai and the laser. You know, Shredder's already been frozen at this point. And there's a whole lot going on, and everybody's getting involved. And, you know, Casey, kind of a groaner, he makes those rollerblades for himself, and you can tell that Mel is a good skater, man, because he knows how to move on those rollerblades.
Look,
he's
man,
Canadian. He better know how to skate.
I was say, if you don't know how to skate and you're from Canada, you just might as well pack it up and go home, buddy, because it's
those
over.
Are the kids that have to be on the curling team. They're like, you can't skate good enough for hockey. You're going to curling.
Put on your shoes.
You'll probably win a medal in the Olympics. Bad news is a broom is part of your sports equipment.
I'm a sweeper.
We really clean up with that curling around here. Get out of here with your curling jokes, you jerk. Nobody likes you.
Oh, man. But you know, they got the whole Technodrome battle going on, I guess. You know, I guess there's some interesting visuals there, and the Turtles are doing their thing, but they don't have that moment where they're like, you know, in the first one where they all line up and they're like, some call it Buck, some call it Knots on a Log. You know what I mean? The little thing.
Your favorite scene of that movie, if memory serves.
That was your favorite.
Do you have one left
for the last one?
Yes, it was.
Gee
and
whiz.
do you have one left in the tank, Michelangelo? I don't think we get a cowabunga in this one. I just missed some of the fun that I felt was there in the big battle at the end of the last one. And it's a little too split up, too.
Fun in the battle, you'll be correct on that, yeah.
The whole end scene felt like one of the Star Wars prequels to me, because you're watching it and there's not a single real thing happening.
It gets boring very quick. You're wrong.
Except for Stephen Amell skating. That was real.
Even that was CGI.
But I kind of felt like if this were really going down, that Casey should have been up on the Technodrome with the Turtles. That's just how I feel. Like he's like a Pete Best of the Turtles. He's the fifth turtle, and he needs to be there where they are.
But then you're not going to get one of the best lines in the movie, which is the Falcon yelling at Casey Jones about how it seems unfair that they have to fight the lady with the ninja lady with the laser. And Amel goes, you want to change jobs with me? Because he has to fight the pig.
Bebop and Rocksteady. Yeah.
It was a good bit.
But you could have set it up the same way, have Stephen Amell take out Bebop and Rocksteady with the grenade, which was a very Casey Jones way of dealing with the problem, even though he hasn't seemed much like Casey Jones up until this point. Then he's making his way to the Technodrome. He might even be the guy that looks like he's died, so it's like they've won the day, but Casey's died, and then he starts coughing, and they're all happy that he lived. I don't think that for a guy who claims to be a fan of the Turtles that he appreciates Casey, and I think that's because Casey is so much bigger in the comics than he was in the cartoon. Yeah, let's be clear. This guy, when he says he's a Turtles fan, he's a cartoon fan, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Probably. I don't see, I agree. Well, before we get to, how this thing irons out here and everything, I want to take, before we even get to that, you thought I was going someplace and you're dead wrong. So the guy who plays Shredder, I believe his name is Brian T, if memory serves.
Yes.
So it turns out this guy has a list of things that he wants to do in life, and one of them, guys, is to play Namor.
Yes.
Oh.
And I'm now he's not the he's not who he is in the movie, in this Turtles movie, where he's just with a very thick accent and everything. This dude is pretty American. I mean, just listening to his voice and everything.
Have you ever seen him in a Speedo, though? Because that's real important for Namor.
He looks like he looks like he could handle it. I think he could handle it.
Does he look like he has winged ankles?
He might. I don't
know. Are his
ears
ears pointy? Just a little pointy?
Maybe to touch. I haven't seen it. He usually has a little bit longer hair around him, so I'm not quite sure on that. But I'll tell you this much. He has what I believe to be one of the most important things. He has the eyebrows.
Yes, and his hair. I saw a picture of him with his hair kind of brushed, slick back in a Namor fashion.
He could. I'm telling you, dude. I'm liking this guy. I think this cat could be Namor. I want to see that. So make that happen, Marvel. I think there's a very, very good bet.
I think he's as good as anybody else. No, man. Namor's a little too big for Netflix. They like the street level stuff. This guy's the king of Atlantis.
Yeah, you got to have a bit.
Right. He's gonna like clash with Black Panther or something. Is what I'm seeing.
Dude, I mean, come on, man. We got to put Namor in. The Illuminati's happening, man. It's happening.
Yeah.
Oh,
if they could only get Reed Richards, it'd be there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is a very key point. That heavens knows. Because did you hear that? It looks like Fox may actually be back for another one.
Well, of course they are.
FF movie. Boy, the world just hates us something fierce, doesn't it?
Suckers.
Well, it'll be the Fantastic Fifth failure.
My gosh. But we can't talk about failure forever because we got to talk about the man who laughs in the face of failure, and we got to find out how this movie connects to our good friend Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Tony Shalhoub is the voice of Splinter in this horrible affront to mankind. I wish he was actually in it. Maybe give this movie a little bit of, what's that thing called again? Oh, right. Any level of quality whatsoever. I mean, who doesn't like Tony Shalhoub? You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. If you don't like Tony Shalhoub, there's a problem with you. There it is. You just heard it. Tony Shalhoub is always great in everything, even this abomination to hero movies. He's a gem to work with. He can do both drama and comedy. He was on a TV show for 127 years, and never, not once, did he ever think he was bigger than the show. Because Tony Shalhoub is a team player. Teamwork makes the dream work. Together, everyone achieves more. There's no I in Tony Shalhoub. He's got a master's from the Yale School of Drama. He earned his bones with the American Repertory Theater for a few years, and then he moved to L.A. And that's when the craziest story I've ever heard happens. Are you ready? Uh-huh. Tony Shalhoub's very first audition in L.A. was for the role of the Italian cab driver on Wings.
Are you kidding me?
His first audition.
How long did that show go on? Forever, man.
127 seasons that show was on TV. That never happens ever. Think of the most famous person you can think of. That person had to audition a lot before they got their first role. Meryl Streep auditioned for the 70s King Kong movie, didn't get the part. They looked at Meryl Streep and said to themselves, no, thank you. But that didn't happen to Tony Shalhoub because they knew what they had the second he walked into the room. Yes, he was in a few things before he moved to L.A., like The Equalizer, Spencer for Hire, and the Bill Murray clown movie Quick Change. But all that happened before he moved to a place that's not the worst city in America because Dallas, Texas still exists. Unfortunately. He's the child of Lebanese parents, which is why he can play any dirty-blooded role Hollywood throws his way. And they threw it his way a lot. He was in Men in Black and Men in Black 2 and 13 Ghosts, which I'm sure no one on this show has an opinion about. No. But even after those roles, not everyone knew who Tony Shalhoub was. And along came the TV show Monk. Is it the greatest TV show ever seen? Yes. Yes, it is the greatest TV show ever. Seriously, Sean? You think Monk is better than Breaking Bad or Preacher? Yep, I sure do. There's 47 seasons of that show, and remarkably, every single season is better than the last. Then,
oh, you really didn't like that last season.
You're right, actually, I don't. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Robert Rodriguez called him in 2003. Because even a guy that hasn't directed a good movie since 2005, Sin City, could see Tony Shalhoub is awesome. And you know who else starred in Spy Kids 3D? The man whose spirit animal is a leathery lobster, Sylvester Stallone. So there you have it, HMPers, this week's Stallone connection. Now, Roy and Lowell, let's review this botched plastic surgery face of a movie.
You know, there's no I in Tony Shalhoub, but there is some lube.
Because he's part of a team, buddy.
Yeah, he puts it's all together there. All right, so let's get down to business. Bruce, outside of Sean, you're definitely in the middle key here for most peeved at this movie. Where does Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows fall on the official Robin rating system for you, sir?
You know, in 2014, I wasn't expecting much out of that first Ninja Turtles movie. I was just curious, you know, and it surprised me. It was a very pleasant surprise. I wound up being very, very vocal about my enjoyment of that movie. And then here, 2 years later, we get the sequel, and the trailers are looking great. You know, they've got Krang, they've got Casey Jones, they've got Bebop and Rocksteady. Everything looks like, you know, they couldn't go wrong if it had the same directors it had in the first one. But then I found out the director was different. It, too, was a surprise, but not the pleasant kind. I saw that first one 4 times in the movie theater. This one I've seen once and don't plan to go back. It's not terrible, but it's not the fun that I was hoping for. I think I'm going to kind of forget that this movie was a thing soon, so I'm going to give it a Stephanie Brown.
Interesting. Mr. Keenan, what do we got? I can guess.
Has Hitler ever played Robin?
No, I don't believe Hitler has ever played Robin.
If Hitler was ever Batman's sidekick, that is the Robin rating that I give this movie. I cannot.
You really don't like it.
I'm not kidding, guys. As much as I hated the first one, and you know I hated the first one, I hate the second one 1,000 times more because it doesn't even work on its own crap. It doesn't work in any way at all. Like, you know, you're a kid's movie. Then why are you cursing all throughout? And why are you objectifying women as much as you are? It's absolutely ridiculous. So this movie is going to get a Jason Todd all day, every day, but Jason Todd if it was played by Hitler.
I think that's worse than the Chris O'Donnell.
No, it's not.
I think
it's not actually. It's one up.
It's just one up from that. Hold on. Let's not say things we can't take back.
I'm not kidding, guys. This is the movie I hate the most of any movie we have ever reviewed on this show.
Wow.
I hate it that much.
Harsh words.
That's
We're going to have to come up with something really crappy next week, Bruce. This is great. It's tough. I don't. it's tough because I don't think I can go all the way to Damian Wayne, but I don't know that I want to go all the way back as far as Stephanie Brown. So I'm going to have to give this a Carrie Kelly just because, like, because I think kids will like this, man. If you're between the ages of like 9 and like maybe 13, 14, maybe that's on the cusp.
But you're totally wrong, Adam, because the movie is 2 hours long. If the movie was an hour and a half and it was wet it, wipe it, good night, kids would be totally fine with it. It's 2 hours. No kid is going to sit 2 hours and watch this movie from nape bone to nuts. It's just not going to happen.
I think smart kids. I give you credit, kids. You're smart out there. No, but if you were smart, you really wouldn't go watch this movie.
Exactly. If the kid was smart, he's not watching this garbage.
Well, maybe they're just dumb enough to look into the screen long enough to just go, "It's time, Junior. It's over." All right. Well, let's go back. Where's the iPad? One of those things. I don't know, but I can't give it the worst of the. I can't give it I can't give it a Stephanie Brown, but I can't give it a Damian Wayne. So I got to go Carrie Kelly just because I feel that it's for there's a certain audience that is going to like this. I think probably better than the first one even, but it does ultimately, like the first one, fall short of far short of what it should be ultimately. So
this movie, it's the New York Yankees of movies.
Oh man. I'll tell you what, Sean, I know what I'm going to get you for Christmas this year.
What?
The Blu-ray of this movie, man, because I think it'll grow on you.
I've never seen another man throw another Blu-ray in another man's face before, but I'll watch it live if you want to show it, so that'd be fun.
Maybe it should just be a digital copy. They don't hurt as bad.
Throw this digital copy back at me. That's it, everybody. Thanks for listening. We're not sure exactly what we're going to do next week, I don't think, unless we talk about that? I don't even remember.
Nope.
All right, so we're coming up with it later.
Let's just review this movie again.
We're going to review this one again. We're going to make Sean see it again, this time in 3D. He's going to like it more that time, I think. I think that's
It'd be great if he came in and totally went Dick Grayson all of a sudden. Oh, man, the 3D
was like when
amazing.
They were traveling around in those sewers, man, it just blew my brain out the back of my head. So I was just like, I got to go and give this at least, with Stephanie Brown. That's what does it for it. He's absolutely wowed, but it only goes up to a Stephanie Brown. But so we'll talk about whatever the heck we're going to be talking about next week. When we talk about that, you know how you can find that out? Head on down to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast and like us on the Facebooks there. You'll find some updated stuff and all that kind of goodness, and we'd appreciate that. Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet this week, sir?
Chubby Wizard, man. You can find Chubby Wizard on iTunes, Stitcher, etc. You can go to chubbywizard.com. This week, we kind of recapped the local comic book convention that we had here in town. Got a little interview with a great writer from DC and Image, a guy named Ed Brisson that people might like. And we talk a little Civil War too, because that just started this past week.
Very nice. Mr. Keenan.
You can reach me on Twitter at Hero Movie Sean. Also, I have my own YouTube channel, Angry Gay Spider-Man. Check for that. And also, I am on a little show called The Preacher Podcast. And if you haven't listened to that, you totally should, because it's pretty good.
Yep, we are lighting it up over there. New episodes dropping probably Tuesday night. We got a little bit of a scheduling conflict, but it's not that bad. Tuesday evening, you'll be getting that new show and everything. And from what I'm to hear, I've heard some early rumblings. I think we have some interesting stuff to talk about. So we'll be doing that Preacher Podcast. Check it out on Stitcher, iTunes, and all those good places. And my other podcast, The Film Find, at thefilmfind.com. This week, we'll be talking the Ninja Turtles movie. We'll be talking about the Mother of Dragons is getting on the wheelchair lap guy. I don't know.
What?
That's what the movie is, basically.
Okay.
And then there's another one. I forgot what it was. I already seen it. And it's the new Andy Samberg movie.
Pop Star.
Never Stopping?
Never Stop, Never Stopping. Which is
How
actually,
is that?
I liked it. I mean,
I've heard good things.
It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. I mean, if you like the Lonely Island stuff and you dig that kind of deal, it's worth watching for sure. I don't know if I'd rush out to go to the theaters, but definitely a Netflix, 100%.
Well, the fact that you forgot that you even saw it, is probably not.
I got a lot going on. So, to find all that out, go to thefilmfind.com, subscribe, and all that kind of good stuff as well. And that is it, everybody. We will join back here next week to review something of our choosing after this program. For Sean Keenan and Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
shell, turtle power,